Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. A big thanks to subscriber Richard D. Cook, whose comment on my July 4th video led to the story. So thanks, Richard. There we go. Today, we remember Gettysburg as the momentous battle of the Civil War. But back in July of 1863, Americans have been following the Vicksburg campaign for months and months, tracking progress through daily news reports. It was, without question, the top story. When news of the surrender of the Confederate stronghold of Vicksburg on Independence Day was confirmed, loyal citizens across the United States went wild with joy. This was especially true in the western states, where the Mississippi River was tightly woven into the very fabric of society. Commerce, transportation, and life itself was connected to the Father of Waters that flowed unvexed to the sea, paraphrasing President Abraham Lincoln. One of the cities that celebrated the triumph at Vicksburg was Council Bluffs, Iowa. A decade earlier, Council Bluffs had made its mark as a trading post for travelers of the Mormon faith heading to Utah. During the war, Council Bluffs had two newspapers, one partial to the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln, and another to the Democratic Party. The pro-Republican newspaper was the Council Bluffs Nonpareil. Founded in 1857, it's still published today. The editor during the Civil War period was a man named William S. Burke. He wrote when he became editor in 1860, quote, "My object will be to furnish the readers of the Nonpareil with the latest and most reliable information of what is transpiring throughout the world in general and Council Bluffs in particular," end quote. Perhaps a noble goal, bringing international news to the frontier town of Council Bluffs. On July 11th, 1863, he wrote an editorial titled The Vicksburg Jubilation. In it, Burke does a great job capturing the moment and describing the various political bases in town and how they reacted. It's a good read, and I want to read it to you. You'll hear Burke reference pro-Union patriots, members of the despised peace faction of the Democratic Party, known as the Copperheads, and a third group that you don't hear talked about very much. He describes them as Sham Loyalists. So let's get into Burke's editorial. Again, the title is Vicksburg Jubilation. Here we go. On Thursday evening, Burke states, after the report from Vicksburg had been confirmed, the Union men and women of the city had a glorification with fireworks and booming cannon, bonfires with illuminations, songs, and speeches. Our Union citizens were all out and enjoyed themselves to their utmost capacity, but not a Copperhead was to be found. If there were any in the city, they had hunted their holes before dark, for it was impossible to find anyone who would acknowledge that he was, or ever had been, anything else than a thorough war man. 3 or 4 brief but patriotic speeches were delivered in front of the county clerk's office, and the thundering cheers which greeted the frequent happy heights gave evidence that the hearts of the people were glad. But we were disgusted to see in the crowd, appearing to rejoice and pretending to be merry, men whose hearts we knew were aching to burst on account of the reverence to the rebel arms, men whose countenance always light up at the report of a rebel victory, and whose souls rejoice over every federal reverse. That these men, whom less than 2 weeks ago might have been seen gloating over the success of Lee in Pennsylvania, should now pretend to rejoice over the fall of Vicksburg, is hypocrisy in the superlative degree, they begin to see that the tide of war has turned and they are trying to make peace with the laws and the people whom they have so often and so grossly insulted. We cannot agree with our friends that these creatures should be treated kindly and welcomed to the ranks of loyalty. We cannot tolerate the sight of their loathsome, detestable carcasses. They pollute the air wherever they go. However much they may repent, they cannot wash out the stain. The stench of their treason will cling to them forever. They should be shunned and abhorred by every loyal man, kicked out of every loyal company. The louder their pretenses to loyalty, the more supreme is our contempt for them. Their loyalty is a sham, their profession is a lie, and the truth is not in them. For a man cannot turn traitor to his country until, within his soul, every spark of patriotism, truth, honor, and righteousness is dead beyond all hope of resurrection. Let every loyal man swear eternal enmity to the traitors and refuse to fellowship with them in any way, no matter how much they pretend to repent. We know the book intimate, that's the Bible, intimates that the vilest sinner may return, but there were no Copperheads to the days when the apostles wrote, or he would have made an exception. So there you have editor William S. Burke using the glorious victory of Vicksburg to talk about how the war has turned, how the Union is on the upswing, and how that third group of people, these sham loyalists, as Burke describes them, are trying to get back into the good graces of the loyal citizenry. And you can feel the anger. It's palpable in Burke's words. He's obviously not ready to make peace with them. I suspect later on, as tensions subsided, particularly after the war ended and peace returned and folks began to work together again, that the divisions that blocked so many relationships across the United States began to slowly come back again and were able to function as one unified body. Plenty of work still be done. Not everybody had the freedom, but we were back on the path towards getting to it. So thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail.